What is going on, everyone? My name is Jason, and this is the Pixel 3a versus the new iPhone SE. Okay, so ever since Apple dropped the new iPhone SE, it sent this weird ripple across the smartphone market. And that's not exactly uncommon when new iPhones are launched, but the interesting thing about the SE is that it's targeting a segment of the market that Apple traditionally doesn't play in. But with the $399 price tag of the new SE, paired with the flagship-like features this phone is packing, to many it immediately became a strong contender for best budget phone available today. And look, in many ways I think that statement could be true, but that's not to say that this is the only phone to have made such a splash in this segment of the market. In fact, it could be argued that the first device that really took steps to redefine what a budget phone should be is this guy, the Google Pixel 3a. Almost 1 year ago exactly, Google dropped this $399 phone out of nowhere, and not only was it a hit, it's still considered by many as the best Pixel ever made. So today I want to quickly compare the Pixel 3a and the new SE to see which one is truly the best budget phone in 2020. Now before we get into the review, if you're into checking out the latest consumer tech products before you buy them, or if you're just a tech head like me, I make a video like this every single week, so make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you can be the first to know when a new JSL review is out and you don't miss anything. And quick question for you guys. I recognize that the Pixel 3a is older and there's a lot of hype around the Pixel 4a, which should drop any time now. What do you think Google needs to bring to the table with that phone in order for it to compete with the SE? Curious to get your thoughts, let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below. Okay, first let's talk physical design and let's start with the Pixel 3a. Okay, so no doubt one of the ways that Google was able to offer this phone at such an affordable price was reducing the use of premium materials. And that's best illustrated with the Pixel 3a's polycarbonate body. Now the use of plastic isn't uncommon when looking at phones at this price point, and to Google's credit, they actually did a really good job with the build of this phone. The classic two-tone frosted glossy Pixel design is well duplicated despite using cheaper materials, the buttons are still clicky and tactile, and in a weird way it's kind of refreshing having a phone that's easy to grip and one that I don't have to baby around. The Pixel has always had this rugged, utility over looks design to it, and the plastic body almost makes sense with the overall design language that Google is going for. Honestly speaking, the cheaper build has never bothered me or hindered my user experience in any way, despite being quite a deviation from the norms of 2020. That being said, this is definitely an area where the Pixel's just not going to be able to compete. And that's because the new iPhone SE from a build perspective is almost at flagship levels. You have Apple's classic glass-on-glass aluminum design, and the SE is assembled to the same high levels of quality that the expensive iPhones are subject to. And when you have both in the hand, it's clear that the iPhone is on another level. Yes, it's using the exact same frame and build of the dated iPhone 8, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it's a luxurious package that still looks fantastic today. Plus, the new SE is also IP67 dust and water resistant, a rare thing to have at this price point. Again, don't get me wrong, I don't have anything particularly against the Pixel 3a here, and I legit think that Google did a good job making this plastic phone look and feel great, but at the end of the day, it's clearly outclassed by the way more premium iPhone SE. Okay, next let's talk about displays. And let's start with the iPhone SE here because it's probably the most controversial part of the phone. So not only is this LCD display a tiny 4.7 inches with its in-your-face forehead and chin, it also comes with a resolution that's under 1080p, which, let's just be real here, sounds absurd in 2020. Now I know this may come off like I'm cutting the SE a lot of slack, but honestly the sub 1080p resolution doesn't really bother me that much. Apple has done an outstanding job at making their LCD displays still come off sharp, the colors are punchy and saturated, and it can get really bright. HD video content comes out great, and overall from a quality standpoint, it's a fine display. My main issue with it is the size, and I'll admit that I'm biased here because I do prefer larger phones and have been on larger phones for many years now, so going back down to a compact display size like the one on the SE is not something that I would say is the most enjoyable thing. That sentiment is felt even more when you pair in the SE's screen to body ratio. I mean, this is the design that Apple first debuted in 2014 with the iPhone 6, so to say that it's dated is almost an understatement at this point. Content consumption isn't as immersive, and though it's easier to do everything with one hand, the compact nature of the phone is not something that will go away anytime soon if you're used to bigger phones. Now it'll likely not bother you if you've avoided larger iPhones up to this point, but the display in the SE is no doubt out of whack with 2020 standards, and it's probably going to be the main factor on why people take a pass on this phone. Now where Google decided to save money on the build material on the Pixel 3a, it didn't skimp out on the display. In fact, the display on this phone is pretty good. It's a larger 5.6-inch OLED display that comes in at a resolution of 2220 by 1080, making for about 441 pixels per inch. And I would say that this display is better than the one on the SE in virtually every way. Even though it's not the biggest and still has a slight forehead and chin, it's way more immersive, and the fact that this is an OLED, you get noticeably better contrast and overall picture quality. Though the phone is pretty compact and not a modern edge-to-edge screen design, the Pixel 3a is more enjoyable to use for things like consuming video and gaming, and even though it's not going to win any awards for best display on a phone, it clearly trumps the SE in this category. Okay, next let's talk performance. Another area in which Google decided to get some cost savings for the Pixel 3a is the choice of their processor. Rather than going with the more expensive top-of-the-line chips, the 3a is powered by the Snapdragon 670, a good processor overall, but clearly a mid-tier one in the grand scheme of things. You're not going to really notice any lags or delays in the small day-to-day stuff with your phone, like loading simple apps or navigating around the phone's UI, and even a year later it can still handle more spec-intensive things like gaming with relative ease, a little stutter here or there, but nothing that would completely take away from the experience. Where you definitely notice this phone's lack of power is in the image processing. Pixels are renowned for their image quality on their cameras, primarily due to the wizardry that Google has mastered in their image processing, and though you're privy to this magic on the Pixel 3a, it's not as seamlessly woven into the user experience. So when you're taking, let's say, a selfie in portrait mode, you're not going to be able to get any sort of live preview of the blur effect. It just looks like it's a normal selfie, and only after the picture has been taken and goes through the noticeably longer processing process does it show up in your photos as a portrait photo. So essentially what you see in the viewfinder while taking your pictures can come out very different once the 3a does its processing magic, and it's something that you'll notice isn't fast like it would be on a flagship phone. Now I think most people likely won't care so long as what they get in the end is a fantastic photo, which they definitely do, and I would ultimately say that the Pixel 3a's performance is pretty par for the course given the space that it occupies. The iPhone SE, on the other hand, is on a totally different class when it comes to performance. And that's because it's powered by the beastly A13 Bionic chip, the same processor that's powering the way more expensive iPhone 11 and 11 Pros. So while Apple may have decided to cheap out on the display, it definitely didn't pull any punches when it came to power. The fact that this phone has the A13 Bionic, with a display that's pretty low maintenance when it comes to power consumption, what you're left with is likely the fastest phone in this budget segment, and I highly doubt that anyone is even a close second. Apps load instantly, spec-intensive gaming is a walk in the park, and the incredible gains that Apple has made in their own image processing is a cinch for the SE. You get all the live previews in the viewfinder for portrait mode shots, and images process and load way faster in comparison to the Pixel 3a, it's almost instantaneous. To be frank, it's kind of crazy that a $399 phone has such an impressive processor like this because it's serious overkill, and you can be confident that this phone is going to comfortably last you quite a long time as it's extremely well future-proofed. Now when it comes to battery life, I gotta say that both are pretty mediocre. You can get through a day okay on both phones with moderate use, but you'll be in the red by the end of the day on the days of heavier use. Now given the compact size of the phones, you're not going to get the extended battery life that's kind of the standard for flagships in 2020, but nothing terrible from either phone. Though they both support 18-watt quick charging, the SE gets a leg up here because it supports wireless charging, another feature that's rare to see at this price point. Another similarity that both phones share is the use of a fingerprint sensor, and again, both are really good. They're fast, and both provide a bit of haptic feedback when authenticating, which I really like, and while the SE's is on the front of the phone, requiring the chin to be a bit larger, the Pixel's is more discreetly placed on the back, which is nice. And there is one more thing that could be of importance. The Pixel 3a is a headphone jack, a nearly extinct port in 2020, something that the SE definitely does not have. Okay, so let's get into the primary reason why both of these phones are so appealing, particularly at this price point, their cameras. And from a hardware perspective, both Google and Apple kept it pretty conservative. Both phones have a single front-facing camera, and correspondingly a single rear-facing camera, and the specs on paper are really nothing to write home about. The selfie cameras have similar sensors when it comes to pixel count, and both can shoot 1080p video at 30 frames per second, and it all could look pretty underwhelming when looking at specs alone. But surprisingly, both the SE and the Pixel 3a are able to take those mediocre cameras and pump out some incredible looking selfies. They're sharp, full of detail, and both do a really good job with their portrait modes. The SE has a warmer, more true-to-life color rendition, while the Pixel has a cooler, more contrast-heavy image profile. And the same could be said about the rear cameras as well. Not only are the images exemplary when it comes to overall picture quality, they're primarily differentiated by how they manage their colors. I will say overall I do tend to prefer the pictures coming out of the Pixel 3a. They're more processed for sure, but they often come out the way I would make minor edits to photos coming out of my iPhone, so it's nice having more of a final product right after pressing the shutter button. Now despite both phones being class leading when it comes to their cameras, there are some differences. First, the Pixel 3a can take advantage of Google's night mode feature, making for way better low light performance, but the SE dominates when it comes to video quality on the rear camera, as it can shoot the same level of 4K video as the iPhone 11 and 11 Pro, the undisputed champions when it comes to smartphone video. At the end of the day, this one really comes down to preference. I ultimately think that the camera on the iPhone SE is better from an overall capability standpoint, but it's really close. And I guess the good thing is that you can't really go wrong with either of these phones. The cameras are phenomenal and dominate any other competitors at this price point. Okay, so when it's all said and done, which one is the best budget phone? The iPhone SE or the Pixel 3a? So to me, the answer is pretty clear that the SE is the better phone. It's got a way better build, incredible performance, and it's one of the best phones overall when it comes to camera quality. Now before you Android fans rush down to the comments to rip me to shreds, hear me out for a second. It's pretty logical that the SE should be better because it's a much newer phone. The Pixel 3a is a year old, it was the first major disruptor in the budget space, and I'm sure Apple learned a lot from it when it decided to go with the new SE. The real comparison that should be made in order to find out which phone is the budget king should be between the iPhone SE and the Pixel 4a, which is dropping later this year. We're going to see what updates Google brings to the table with this popular phone, and how they respond to Apple's entrance into this budget space. But hey, I want to pass the question off to you guys. Which phone do you guys think is better? And do you think that the Pixel 4a is going to dominate both of them? Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below. Okay, that's about it for this review. Don't forget to leave me a thumbs up if you guys found it useful, it really helps me out. If you guys have any questions about the iPhone SE or the Pixel 3a, leave them down in the comments and I'll be sure to get to them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.